Hi, my name is Jennifer Fox, and I have the privilege of speaking to you today about servant leadership. Servant leadership is a thing that is near and dear to my heart, as I was lucky enough growing up in athletics, being able to be taught by great coaches, my parents, teachers, and even my teammates how to be a servant leader. Servant leadership is deeply personal, and it expresses a genuine compassion for other human beings. What a great thing that we could be just servant to other people wherever we're at. Servant leadership is found everywhere. It's found in churches, it's found in schools, it's found in our military, and especially at places of work where people are always looking out for other people, and that translates into athletics also. Servant leadership, the term was coined in the 1970s by a man named Robert K. Greenleaf. But you don't have to wait until the 1970s to see servant leadership on this earth. Jesus Christ came over 2,000 years ago and walked the same earth that we walk, and he was the perfect example of what a servant leader should look like. In the Bible, it shows a lot of different examples of Jesus being a servant leader, one of which he washes the feet of his disciples. In Mark 10:45, it says, "For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others, and to give his life as a ransom for many." In the Bible, it talks about all these great qualities of character that Jesus had and people who followed him, and being a servant leader is one of those things. Servant leadership is an action. Servant leaders differ from other persons of goodwill because they act on what they believe. That just goes hand in hand with always doing the right thing and making sure that we're putting other people first. At the core of it, all great teams and all great coaching staffs have servant leaders. Servant leadership is a choice. Whenever we decide to be a servant leader, we're saying that we're not going to be mediocre, and that we're not going to be that for ourselves, and we're not going to expect that from anyone else around us. I know within my team setting, there's 4 specific things that I look for in noticing if kids are servant leaders or not. And then also these 4 specific things that we teach in trying to get them to become servant leaders. The first one is always be last in line. If you're at a family reunion and they say the food's ready, don't rush up and be first. Be last in line, making sure that everybody else is taken care of before yourself. The second thing that we do with our athletes is make sure that they hold the door for people. It's just a simple thing, it seems like, but that's what being a servant leader is about. The third thing is making sure that they clean the locker room and the dugout, not waiting for somebody else to do it, to take that leadership role of serving others by helping them out. And then lastly, to carry equipment. I'm a softball coach, and carrying equipment is never fun. And that's a huge deal to us in getting our kids to buy in and making sure that they're helping carry the equipment. Servant leaders always make other people a priority, and they make sure that the needs of others are being met. Servant leaders also always want to help others, and they just have a servant's heart. There's been some famous servant leaders in history, one of them being Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. offered an inclusive vision. He was able to get people on board. He listened very carefully to other people and their wants and their needs, and he had a way about healing the community through division, through people coming together and making sure that they were on board with the same thing. Another famous servant leader in history was Mother Teresa. She was a nun and a charity worker. She was almost the perfect example of a servant leader. She had a very clear vision, and she started a charity so she could help the poor, sick, orphaned, and dying. Servant leadership in sports, for coaches, athletic administration, for players, anybody involved in sports, there's certain things that you need to make sure that you're doing. 1, listen. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, and so that means that we need to listen more than we talk. And I know that that's hard, even for me. We need to provide direction, inspire, sacrifice, and prioritize the things that are important to us in making sure that we're leading people in the right direction. Also need to have strong moral character, focus on the good of everyone and many, not just ourselves, and then not worried about self-recognition. The servant leader is one who facilitates goal accomplishments by giving team members help when they need it in order to be productive. I know in all team sports that I've ever been involved with, a lot of times you do have to sacrifice yourself, specifically in our sport of softball. If a leadoff runner gets on first base, you're probably going to be sacrificed bunting to move the runner over. It is just something that you have to do for the team to be productive. Another example of that is in 2012, basketball coach John Calipari at Kentucky. They won a national championship, and what he was able to do, is recruit top-rated players all over the nation. He was able to get them to buy into what a servant leader looks like, acting upon a desire to make other people better, building trust with players and coaches. And as long as you can get people to buy in and teach it the right way, and that they really believe in being a servant leader, amazing things are possible. He had that year at Kentucky the number 1 and number 2 overall draft in the NBA. And whenever you looked at the stat sheet, those two players were 5th and 6th in the number of shots that they took on the court for their team. Wow, that is servant leadership at its best. You know that those players were being taught that off the court if they were able to be that on the court for that team, and see how that just transpires into their success. In conclusion, everyone can be a servant leader. It is so humbling and honest, and it is the best feeling in the world to put others first and to make sure that their growth and that their progress is so much more than yours. Thank you for listening, and I hope that everyone can live a life like Christ and be a servant leader.